Welcome in another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real _ G Warner on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. And this is the second podcast in what feels like only a few hours, but we're doing the Betting the Pitch, what the actual name of the podcast is for, a soccer podcast for all of the top 5 European soccer leagues, or formerly top 5. We're going to go English Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga in Germany, and the Ligue 1 in France. We're going to have an ultimate best bet end of show, going to collect a best bet from each of the leagues, and of course, try to set you up for some money making this weekend. If you are on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. And if you're not a Patreon member of my Patreon, you're not a patron or a member of my Patreon, easy for me to say after I've done it for so long. Check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. You get direct access to me. You can literally get my write-ups before they're posted, my plays as I'm going to make them. I basically put out what I'm planning to do for the next day each night or in the morning, same day, and then go from there, updating throughout the day. If you download the app, turn on your notifications, you get a buzz every time I add something. And so you will stay right in line with whatever I'm playing. So check that out, patreon.com/the_G Warner. So we're going to get in and start where the money is. And once we do that, I got to figure out where I'm getting the lines from. So all lines going to this podcast are courtesy of BetOnline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced use is offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive 50% match bonus up to $1,000. Use the promo code GW, my initials, 50, and you should get I don't know if this works on like second time deposits or reloads, but it definitely works on when you fund your account. And if you're already a BetOnline member and you'd like to get some more outs and potentially look somewhere else, I also have another website up for sportsbetting.ag. So check that out. So now let's get into it. We'll start in the English Premier League, since, as I always say, that is where the money is. And truthfully, that is where it is. So we'll start on Saturday. We have no Friday matches this week. A lot of cup matches in the midweek. Aston Villa hosts Brighton, currently at Pick'em, with a little bit more juice on Brighton on the road. Over-unders 3.25, with the juice split both ways. This is my first time looking at lines because there's a lot of midweek action. So I'm learning from this as you are learning from this. So Brighton, I'm a little surprised. I made them an underdog here. And I guess I'll come out with what I made all these numbers as well. So it's a bit surprising to me for right now. I think Aston Villa, they're balancing European play just like Brighton are. Aston Villa are a good home team. Brighton, had a big trip to Chelsea during the midweek. They have had some up and downs to start the season, are balancing multiple competitions for the first time in a long time. You could probably say the same thing about Aston Villa as well. But Aston Villa has spent a lot of money in their squad going back a couple seasons now. Even when Steven Gerrard was there, Brighton have been kind of new to this. And I do worry about them with this fixture overload. Of course, they're somewhat used to that during the Christmas break and things of that nature, not a break for them. But I do feel like the price on Brighton's a little high at the moment. So I'm interested in Aston Villa, especially if they move to a better priced pick'em or potentially an underdog as well. As for the total, 3.25, feels very high to me, but Brighton totals have been high for a long time. Next, we go to Bournemouth hosting Arsenal. Currently, Bournemouth a 1-goal underdog at home with juice is pretty much split both ways. Over-under is 3, heavily juiced to the under. So this is exactly what I made it. Total a little bit higher, but we do have, it's important to get the push on 3, but it's very juiced at the moment. Bournemouth under Andoni Iraola, the former Rayo Vallecano manager from La Liga, they're going to sit back and try to counter, use their pace in the wings or with fullbacks. Arsenal are still a really highly priced team that to me aren't playing that way. It's been a rough start to the season. Injuries are piling up. Expectations are tough to follow up 2 seasons in a row, especially considering how they outperformed expectations last season, kind of out of nowhere. Brighton are very interested in me getting a full goal of insurance, I got to say. I don't know that I've had a ton of success fading Arsenal over the last few seasons, but I got to say, I'm interested in Bournemouth keeping it close. At home, you would expect a much better performance from them than almost anybody else because they are one of those sides that aren't really going to do much away, and they know that they need to get 3 points at home to really do anything. It feels like that, just to me, it feels like the price is about where I put it, but because I don't think you can make it much higher, but I am fairly interested in Bournemouth getting that 1 goal right now. Next, go to Newcastle hosting Burnley. Currently, Newcastle a 1.5 goal favorite at home. A little bit more juice on Burnley on the road. Over under is 3, juiced a little bit to the under. So a little shorter than I made it, actually. I was expecting Burnley to be even bigger underdog. Kind of shocking to say, I guess, but here we are. Burnley haven't had a great start to the season. Did have a much easier cup match than Newcastle hosting Manchester City this week. But they ultimately are going to have to deal with a Newcastle team that also torched Sheffield United last week and are at home for 2 straight matches this week, while Burnley, I think, had to go to Salford City, a lower tier team. That's not great. Doesn't usually work perfectly in that scenario. In terms of the total here, Burnley want to play an open game, which I think makes it also worse for trying to cover the spread at 1.5. I feel like things can get ugly, and I don't know that there's much more I really want to say in this one, because I don't think I have much interest in the road dog here until at least they prove that they're a lot better than they've shown so far. Crystal Palace then visit Manchester United for the second match in this week. Didn't look great in the Carabao Cup, though. They rotated and really had no offensive answers without Eze in the lineup. He should certainly start in this one. And for a team, Crystal Palace, who usually takes the Cups pretty seriously, I was pretty disappointed in the lineup that they use, and then really kind of how they played, essentially. But they should have a full complement here. Manchester United, I mean, they've now won a couple of matches in a row, starting to look a little bit better. As a 1-goal favorite, though, still pretty nice price to get in Crystal Palace on the road, though I think after watching what we saw on Tuesday, I think it was, it's really hard to go back to that well, I gotta say. So I don't know that 1 is enough for me, especially when it's very juiced at the moment. Over under at 2.5, juiced all the way to the over. Might see a little 2 3/4 before this kicks off. I felt like we could have certainly gotten a under through in that match in Carabao Cup midweek, but it should be, I mean, Crystal Palace should be playing better players, offensive players that might threaten this total even more. I want to make sure that Mark Gahey is starting because he's been injured, and that's been a concern for me as well. I don't know that I have a ton of interest in the side here, but I guess if anything, I like the under 2.5 total. Next, we'll go to West Ham hosting Sheffield United. Got a big window of all these games starting at the same time, it seems. So Sheffield United, they are currently a 1.25 goal underdog on the road at West Ham. Juice is split both ways. Over under is 3, and it's very juiced to the under, all the way juiced to the under. Potentially going to see a 2 3/4 maybe. Anyway, it's a big price for West Ham to offer, but they've been playing really well to start the season. And unfortunately, Sheffield United have not, and they didn't have a cup match midweek, which is probably good for them to kind of lick their wounds and get ready. Should be pretty motivated. While West Ham did play in the cup midweek. So I guess we got some questions about what we're going to potentially see from West Ham. I mean, they are used to playing in multiple competitions, though, so they have that I guess leg up on the rest of England, balancing cup matches, because they've been doing that in the Conference League, which they won last season, and the Europa League the year before that. So I think there's a pretty good chance that West Ham get a big win here. I think if anything, if you like Sheffield, you probably want to play under 3 because you get a little bit more safety than that 1.25. Next, go to Wolves hosting Manchester City. Wolves a 1.5 goal underdog at home. Over under is 3. Juice the under. A lot of juice on Manchester City as a favorite on the road as well. Wolves, under Gary O'Neill, I've really liked him defensively, or his defensive teams, like Bournemouth last season. Unfortunately, against Man City, that's asking a lot. I don't know that I'm getting enough here. I want to get more than 3, even though that 3 is pretty important usually for a push possibility. But I don't have it yet, and I don't really think that there's a lot I want to do there necessarily. And I fear for Wolves that they're going to have a tough one, especially after looking like they're going to close an underdog to Ipswich Town, a championship side in the cup on the road this midweek. Man City did have to go to Newcastle, and was a tough place to play. So maybe that changes things a little bit, but regardless. Next, we'll go to Everton hosting Luton Town. Currently, Everton a 1-goal favorite, far bigger than I made it, put it that way. Over under is 2.5, also far bigger than I made it. Everton have been playing a little bit better lately, but we'll see how long that lasts. Luton don't really look like they have much to them, certainly not offensively. And I got to say, anytime you can get a full goal of insurance against an Arsenal side that are just not really good, in my humble opinion, I'm pretty interested in that. I don't know necessarily that I'll end up jumping on the Luton side, but I do like the total a lot. I feel like 2.5 goals is a lot to expect from any sort of Everton match. They'll probably be more likely to score at home, of course. and have that huge crowd behind them. But Luton, they know that they're going to have to defend to stay in the league. They're probably not going to, even with great defense this season, because they don't score enough goals and they're not going to win enough games. But at the same time, that's something that I really like from an unders perspective, because they don't have a lot of threat offensively and they know they need to defend. For the nightcap on Saturday, we have Tottenham hosting Liverpool. Currently, Tottenham a quarter goal underdog at home with a little bit more of the juice. Over under is 3.5. Juice very heavily to under, all the juice there. So potentially going to fall below that 3.5 by kickoff. I doubt it, because I feel like people like to bet overs, and these are two over teams. I'm a little surprised to see Tottenham an underdog at home. I mean, everyone, the market including, loves Liverpool and will never give that up, it seems. But to me, that seems like a very expensive price, I got to say. I don't know necessarily that I love Tottenham. I haven't really liked them much at all for a while now, but they are better, I think, than this number indicates. I mean, so they'd be 3/4 goal underdog or so on the road at Liverpool if you flip home fields here. That seems a little bit expensive to me. I guess not that crazy, but I do think there's a difference between Anfield and playing at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So I'm pretty interested in the home dog there. I think it's going to be an up and down match, which is not great for dogs, and making that quarter of a goal less valuable with the more goals that are scored. You really want a quarter goal underdog in a goalless match, and I don't think we're going to have a 0-0 here. But I'm still interested in the home dog, to say the least. Moving to Sunday, we have Nottingham Forest hosting Brentford. Looks like it's the only match coming up, which is odd, unless we're missing a spread here. But anyway, Nottingham Forest a pick'em at home right now, with more juice on Brentford on the road, which I think is what I expected, but wanted to, I guess, make sure I saw it. Total is 2.25, juice all the way to the over. And that's, I mean, Brentford have really not had a great run. They did play Arsenal midweek in the cup. So who knows what that lineup's going to look like. They've been, of course, really missing Ivan Toney, which didn't look like it at the beginning of the season, but also had a really easy run of fixtures that didn't do really enough with. This is a tough one because it's on the road, but a team they should be better than. Hence the price right now at more juice on them as a road pick 'em. But I gotta say, I feel like I need to see Brentford snap out of a bad funk, and they played a really rotated Arsenal side that clearly were taking the the Carabao Cup not as seriously, which is of course understandable considering they have Premier League and Champions League on their minds. But I don't know that there's enough there for me yet. I've had concerns with the Brentford defense, to say the least. I think I lean that way, if anything. But the total is a little bit smaller than I expected. I think I need to see that move to 2.5 before I want to get involved. And last but not least, we have Monday. Fulham hosts Chelsea. Currently, Fulham a 0.5 goal underdog at home. Over under is 2.5, and it is a little bit more juice to the under. It probably sounds like a broken record. I'm trying to fade Chelsea as much as I can, really, for the rest of the year. Fulham, at least until they prove something. Fulham have not been a good offense, so I'm a little bit more concerned with the 0.5 goal taking them at home, even in a West London derby. Means a lot more, I think, the rivalry to Fulham than it would to Chelsea. But under 2.5 looks great to me. I think Fulham has been a good team in the Premier League because of their defense. I also don't really see that changing. I also don't think they threaten the opposing goal, the Chelsea goal, enough. So I think that's going to be my best bet for this game, and I'll make that my best bet for England as well. And I'll go with that Fulham under 2.5, just because, I don't really see a lot of goals in any Chelsea matches at all going forward. Next, we'll move to Spanish La Liga, which we did have a match on Friday of Barcelona playing, but didn't get onto this podcast. Anyway, we'll start with Getafe hosting Villarreal, currently a pick'em, with more juice on Villarreal on the road. Over unders 2.25, juiced almost all the way to the over, which is saying something. Getafe matches have seen a lot of goals lately, but it's not something I expect to continue. Villarreal are not an offensive team, though, so that's probably a good explanation for why this total is where it is. Getafe, I expect it to be a slight underdog. They are an underdog, but not as small as, or not as big as I expected, even saying I expected them to be slight. The total is a little bit lower than I expected, which I think is based on a Getafe home matchup. But I'm looking to back Getafe potentially. I just am looking to be against Villarreal as much as possible, taking a 1-0 lead on a crazy penalty and then still losing the match, not even covering, but not even winning or drawing or getting a point out of it at home the other day was really tough. And I just don't like Paqueta. I don't think their manager situation is good. I think they need to find somebody else, but they went for a retread La Liga failure from years and years and years and years and years. Next, we'll go to Rayo Vallecano hosting Mallorca in the suburbs of Madrid, I believe. But Mallorca currently a quarter goal underdog on the road. Over under is 2, and it is slightly juiced to over. Expected a low total here. That's probably my biggest interest is in under. Not expecting a lot of goals, but at 2, I'm just not playing totals at this point. They're too rich for my blood, unfortunately. But for the side, I'm interested in the quarter of a goal that Mallorca are getting. I want them to get more than that, probably, for me to play. It is getting odds at the moment, though, so I'm fairly interested in that. I want to see what that turns into. Rayo just haven't really been the team that they were last year under Iraola. I already mentioned him, and I probably will in every podcast. But new manager has come in, was at Elche in their relegation season last season, I believe, and just really hasn't been that impressive. They've lost some people and really haven't been playing the same way. So lean against them, especially Mallorca playing so well against Barcelona, though I'm a little concerned because Javier Aguirre does like to rotate a lot. He usually will kind of hunt on a match. I mean, I'm not saying he tries to lose by any means, but he definitely will use a weaker lineup on the road when he's got other matches in mind that he thinks he has the best chance at potentially. I remember an Atletico Madrid match, just like basically putting the backups in essentially, saving up, but there's that's not necessarily a need to save up for midweek next week as we return to Champions League play. But it's a quick run of fixtures all pushed in again against each other as La Liga started a week later than some of the other leagues and tried to make up a match week this past week at the Jornada. But I lean to Mallorca at the moment. Rayo just really off a goalless draw haven't looked so good. Girona then hosts Real Madrid in a very surprising top of the table matchup. Girona only a half a goal underdog at home right now. Over under is 3, which feels really, really high to me. I mean, Girona's been scoring a lot of goals, but ultimately Real Madrid are not a scary offensive team at this point to me. I think Real Madrid getting Vinny Jr. coming back as a substitute, maybe he starts in this match this weekend. Pretty big deal if that occurs because he then adds a big threat on the wing. But they rested Jude Bellingham. Can't remember his name. And really got away with a win against the Las Palmas side at home that really, I mean, can't really threaten you offensively. So it's kind of a nothing match, under hit very easily. Thanks to a lot of great defending and goalkeeping really from Las Palmas. But Real Madrid have yet to impress me this season. I'm looking to be against them. It hasn't gone great for me so far, but I felt like got to win on that under this week. And they can't keep scoring these late goals off of really bad mistakes or miraculous finishes from Jude Bellingham. I just don't think that'll continue. So I like Girona getting at half of a goal. I also like under 3. That 3 is important, so I don't want to lose that if you're playing under there. Last but not least, we have the Derby de Basco, or the Basque Derby. Real Sociedad hosting Athletic Club. Currently, Real Sociedad a quarter goal favorite with almost all the juice at home. Over under is 2.25, very juiced to under. So haven't had a great time with betting against the Bilbao offense so far. Iñaki Williams had a great finish to send it over in the midweek, but then ultimately they conceded and took a red card. And Oyan Sasset, their important and long-term deal signing central midfielder, will be suspended for this one after getting a red card, unless it was rescinded and I missed it. I don't think I'm in a position where like I want to flip the complete script and back Athletic Club. I'd be interested to see if Nico Williams, the star eventual star protege maybe, and younger brother of Iñaki Williams. If Nico's in this game, that does change things quite a bit. I haven't heard anything that he's going to be available. So from where I sit now, I want to see if Real Sociedad keep getting bet, because unfortunately they seem very, very concerning to me as a backer for them in the future of the season to finish above Sevilla in the table. And also, I guess I did tip them as well to finish in Champions League position. I'm concerned about them with Leeds, which also makes, I guess, under look a little bit interesting, but a very juiced 2.25. That's probably too low for me. I'm not sure what really I'm going to do with this matchup yet, and it might just mean nothing. Moving to Sunday, we go to Almeria hosting Granada. Currently, Almeria half a goal favorite at home, a little bit more juice. Over unders 2.75, juiced to the under. Almeria have been awful, terrible showing in midweek at Sevilla. Had a good start to the match and then somehow lost 5-1. and got a penalty to get that one. If I got the score correctly, if not, please correct me. Feel free to slide in some DMs at the _G Warner, or comment in anywhere you see this. Maybe in your review, you could clown me for not having all these scores committed to memory, but I've been trying. Anyway, Granada have looked like a team, newly promoted side, that are going to go back down. They need to start making some big headway. And I think it's really by improving their defense. Will that happen overnight? And has it happened yet? No, but this is a good chance for them to do that. They're going to go to Almeria, who are not a super strong team, a sophomore slump, potentially relegation candidates who survived their first year in the league, in La Liga, but ultimately it struggled the next time. And they've been struggling so far, a lot because of their defense being so porous. That makes the under 2 3/4 a little bit less interesting to me. I think I want to get a push on 3 if I want to play it. I don't think we'll get it. But I am interested in the Granada side, at least the numbers where I made it. And I'm looking to be against Almeria is essentially how I feel. Alaves then hosts Osasuna. Currently, Alaves a pick'em with all the juice right now at home. Over under is 2, juice to the under. This is saying something. Osasuna's had a really bad start to the season, and this line is showing it. I'm kind of surprised that Osasuna are an underdog here, but I think I'd be most interested in under 2 1/4 if it got up there, but it doesn't look like it will. And I guess I'm interested in Osasuna just because I don't believe in Alaves. They can't really score goals. Yes, they're better at home, but I'm not really even sure that means they're that really good anyway. Next, we'll go to Real Betis hosting Valencia. Currently, Real Betis a quarter goal favorite at home with more of the juice. Over-unders 2 1/4, juice to the under. Valencia, they're a young team, and they've got a long way to go. They get a lot of respect from the Liga market, but really hasn't been deserved. I think I've been betting against them their last few matches, and it's gone well each time, including a loss at home to Real Sociedad midweek, a rotated side at that. I don't think I want to back them in a tough place to play. Unfortunately, I don't think in Betis' stadium and Benito Villamarin it'll go very well for them. I guess if anything, I like under 2 1/4, but that's a really low total for some questionable defenses as well. Next, and I guess a similar starting time, or same starting time, same kickoff time, both night matches in Spain on Sunday. Interesting. Atletico Madrid hosts Cadiz. Currently, Atleti a 1 1/4 goal favorite with more of the juice. Over unders 2.5, juice to the over very heavily. Might climb to 2 3/4 before I even finish recording this. But Cadiz currently the 1 1/4 goal underdog. It's not as big as I was expecting. Total is lower than I was expecting as well. So I'm going to wait to see that climb. I don't know that I necessarily have that much interest in Cadiz as a side. I guess at best I'd be interested in the total, but I don't even know that I like that very much. And moving to Monday, we have Las Palmas hosting Celta de Vigo. Las Palmas in desperate need, and they're currently a pick'em at home, but with all the juice, and it looks like it probably is a quarter at other books right now, but currently looking at plus 110 on pick'em on Celta de Vigo. Over under is 2 1/4, and it is juice the under. I've been backing Las Palmas unders for a while now. I see no reason to get away from that, especially with Celta de Vigo in a road match where Celta haven't really scored much at home at all, except for an own goal midweek. They finally got them on the board. Las Palmas haven't been scoring at all. I think they've scored once through open play, and that was in the 92nd minute, I think, in stoppage time. So not a lot to really expect from this one in terms of goal scoring. I think that's my biggest interest. So I'll go under 2 1/4. Celta on the road at Las Palmas for my best bet for Spain. And now I'll move to Italy and Serie A, who, another run of fixtures midweek. So probably a lot of tired. If I think I'm tired, I'm sure all these other players in La Liga are super tired as well. But also Serie A and Italy too. We start with a Saturday match. Fortunately, there's no Friday one like La Liga played. I guess they're so tied to contracts, but TV contracts. Lecce currently a 3/4 goal underdog at home to Napoli. Napoli's starting to kind of work their way into looking like the team that won the Scudetto last season by a long shot. I don't know that I'm interested in under with Napoli, but I am interested in going against them, especially if I could somehow get a +1 here. Lecce are a team that are going to be fighting relegation. Off to a great start, though, undefeated to start the year until they lost to Juventus in midweek, but I ultimately pushed aside and went under the total, which is I'll take a 1-0-1 on any bet I could make. So I'm still interested in fading Napoli at this point. I don't really know that I'm going to pull in or jump in right yet, but certainly early Saturday morning, probably play something overnight unless there's potential for a +1 that might pop up. Moving next to AC Milan hosting Lazio. Currently Milan, a 3/4 goal favorite with almost all the juice on Lazio on the road. Over-under's 2.5, juice to the under very heavily. I don't think I want to back an under with Milan because they can score a ton of goals. I don't really trust Lazio at this point either. So I think that total is just too small for me. And I really don't have much I want to do with it. I don't think I want the side either. So I think that's probably an easy stay away for me. Ultimately, I don't like Lazio despite a good win finally in midweek. Salernitana then hosts Inter Milan. Currently, Salernitana a 1.25 goal underdog at home with the juice split both ways. Over-unders 2.75. Juice pretty heavily to over. We might see 3 before this kicks off. Salernitana with a really good position should have taken a lead. I thought defender from Empoli played a ball and made a missed kick, and Salernitana ended up scoring. Would have been a 1-0 lead. Empoli hadn't scored yet. The season had lost all their matches. I think that would have changed how the match went, but unfortunately, referees. I'm not 100% on my interpretation, but I've seen that before. Really don't like how the referees treat sport in general, especially in this one, because it drives me insane. I feel like it cost me a lot of money. Anyway, it's going to stop the Saab campaign right now. But Salernitana at home, their potential. If they start Bouladia, that would be a huge factor in me taking an interest in them, and I guess I'll put it on my list as a possibility. I don't think I want to play unders with the Inter Milan because they can score so many goals, and they just score. They're kind of like the Bayern or the Real Madrid that score from a few chances. Really, probably more of a Bayern thing than anybody. I think Salernitana, I want to see Candreva, who's older and played midweek, so I'm not sure if he gets a rest. But Bouladia, who came off the bench, finally looks to be past his contract issue. Salernitana. He's a huge part of scoring, but ultimately also will be playing as 3 center backs and trying to make an impact. 1 versus 3 is really hard to do. Moving to Sunday morning, we have Bologna, and they are hosting Empoli. Bologna currently a 3/4 goal favorite at home. Empoli, I guess getting all the juice, right? Or excuse me, all the juice on Bologna. Potentially, we could see a +1 before this kicks off. I don't think I really want the side at this point, though. At +1, I guess I'm interested in almost anything. I do feel like 2.5 for a total is gigantic. Empoli have not looked great on the road this season. Finally got a win, though. That will certainly add some confidence under I think their second or third manager of the season. I don't know necessarily that I trust Bologna to score goals. I really actually do not. They should have, I thought, again, taken a lead after a ridiculous foul call that nullified a goal they scored with no whistle being blown. Should have been VAR. Should have been held up, I thought. But ultimately escaped with another goalless draw after Napoli. They saw no goals and now got 0 in this last matchup against Monza on the road. Now they host, and so they should be in a position to score more goals against a bad team, but I don't believe it. Under 2.5 looks way too high to me. I was expecting 2.25 and juice to under. Next, we'll go to Udinese hosting Genoa. Currently, Udinese a 1/4 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Genoa, though, on the road. Kind of speaks to how poorly Udinese have been playing so far this year. Schedule hasn't been that friendly, but they also can't blame the schedule. They've been bad. Genoa, newly promoted side, hard to really know exactly what they're going to look like for a lot of the season, especially coming off a big matchup at home with Roma. But they took a 2-1 lead. I think led 1-0 as well. That's a good sign, especially going on the road to a team that's been struggling. A confident newly promoted that's got history in the league. That interests me a lot. And so we'll see if that ends up making it a little bit further on my card. Atalanta then hosts Juventus, currently a pick'em, which is pretty respectful to me for Atalanta, who haven't looked like that good of a team so far. I'd be looking to back Juve, especially as underdogs. I think they've been playing well as long as Tech Chesney's not making huge mistakes at the back. Total's lower than I made it at 2.5, juiced a little bit to under. I don't want to play an under with Atalanta, though. So it looks like Juve are nothing for me in that one. And last but not least, on Sunday is Roma hosting Frosinone. Frosinone has been great. They've been cover machine so far. I'm not looking to get away from that. And Roma have, had a lot of money betting against them on Genoa on the midweek match. I'm interested to see what happens with the marketplace here as well. I don't know that the market hasn't really loved Frosinone, so I'm not expecting a lot there, but we'll see. I do like the 1.25 right now. It's very juiced, like all the way. Getting odds on the 1.25 if you backed Roma right now. I think we could see this close +1. I'll be waiting to see what happens with it, though, as I'm interested right now. And the Roma offense looks great and has a lot of talent. But they haven't really been doing much, or at least being that impressive so far. A lot of new bodies being worked into each other. So I want to see this climb now. I don't know if I really want to get involved with the total as well as a side here, though that's something I generally do like to do if you've been following along. Moving to Monday, we have 3 matches, which is awesome. Sassuolo hosts Monza, currently Sassuolo a quarter goal favorite, with almost all the juice on Monza on the road. Over under is 3, just the under, which I think makes sense. But both these two teams are attacking. It probably be a race to see who can score as many as possible. Sassuolo look very, very cheap, especially coming off a very big victory against Inter Milan on the road. Sassuolo's home crowd, not great. I mean, Monza are very cheap here, and I've kind of learned from Serie A to look at the really cheap sides and try to figure out why they are. This one is way below what I made it. I think I was on the other side of 1/2, so we're at a quarter and juice at the moment to Monza. So it's almost like we might get a pick'em at some point. That would be something I probably wouldn't play pick'em, but getting a quarter when it closes pick'em would probably give you a pretty good indication based on CLV closing line value that you know what you're doing here. No real interest in a total going under with 2 over teams. Torino then hosts Verona. Torino a 1/2 goal favorite at home, a little bit more juice, or excuse me, almost all the juice. Over under is 2.25, heavily juiced the under. I have big questions about the Torino offense. I always do, it seems. I don't know that I really want to back Verona here. They're below the number I made it. And I do feel like that total kind of reflects it at 2.25, juiced all the way to the under. Potentially, we're going to see a 2, which is very low for Serie A match. I think if we hang on to 2.25, I'm interested in potentially backing that, and then hoping that Verona doesn't make some big mistakes and hand goals to Torino. But for this point, I think under 2.25 is my biggest interest. And last but not least, Cagliari, a 1-goal underdog on the road at Fiorentina, bigger than I made it, getting odds as well. So might see 1.25 before this kicks off. That's too big. Fiorentina to me are just a team that make big mistakes too often. Did it against Frosinone earlier in the week. Why wouldn't they do it against Cagliari at home? They play better, certainly, but they're a huge favorite and have to win by a lopsided margin in order to cover the spread. I think it's hard to ask for them to do. Total's a little bit higher than I made it, so I guess I'll lean under there too. Yeah, there's a lot in Italy. I feel like Italy's been rather straightforward. I'm doing fairly well in Serie A this year, and I want to keep that going. There's a lot to pick from here for a best bet from Italy as well. I think for my best bet, I mean, I'm tempted by Genoa on the road at Udinese. I think ultimately, though, the one I like the best is an early one on Sunday, but it's under 2.5, Bologna hosting Empoli. So I'll put that one on that list. Now I'll move to the German Bundesliga. We did have a Friday match today, but that was taken care of in another place. So I didn't get on this podcast, but I hope you will all forgive me. Anyway, so for the first matches on Saturday, we have Mainz hosting Bayer Leverkusen. Currently, Mainz a 1-goal underdog at home. All the juice on Bayer Leverkusen on the road. Two teams going in completely opposite directions. Leverkusen look like a title threat. Mainz look, I mean, I think they have 1 point to start the season's defense. Their defense has been atrocious, and I'm actually a little bit surprised by this number, though. I thought it would be below 1, actually, and so we're getting the full 1, and it's even money. I think it's based on how well Leverkusen have been playing. The total of 3, I think it's a much more mature Leverkusen team, but they're still so good offensively. I guess I lean to both of them because they're above what I'm expecting, but that kind of shows the marketplace just not really respecting Mainz at this point, and not really in a position to kind of put up a big fight, which is a big problem for a team that has had the same manager for a while. I don't know that they'd get rid of Svensson because he's had such good history there, but not a lot is working for Mainz at this point. And they took a really bad loss to Augsburg on the road last weekend. Eintracht Frankfurt then visit Wolfsburg, currently a 1/4-goal underdog on the road. All the juice on Wolfsburg at home. So potentially we're going to see this climb to a 1/2. To me, that's too big. I think that's too respectful of Wolfsburg, though they did a lot of additions in the summer transfer window, and they've got a good manager, Niko Kovac, who's been all over some big jobs in the past. I'll wait to see if we get to 1/2 goal with Eintracht. I think that's probably a potential buy price for me, but ultimately I like under 2.5. I'm still not a believer in the Bundesliga overrun. They've scored a ton. There's been a ton of goals scored, but how many deserve? They're just from bad defense or lucky things. And how long will that continue? I don't think it will happen that much. But so I think under 2.5 is my biggest interest in that one, though. There's been 1 million goals scored in the league, and it's been a little bit tougher for me financially, I got to say, so far this season. For next, we'll go to Heidenheim hosting Union Berlin. Heidenheim, a quarter goal underdog at home with more of the juice. Over-unders 2 3/4, juice to the under. Pretty big total for Union Berlin, who are in Champions League, probably focus on their next match. I don't know exactly who that's played, but coming off of Real Madrid and then losing at home to Hoffenheim. It's been a really rough run for Union to start the year, as it has been in previous seasons where they've really struggled to balance competitions. I don't know that I want to fade Union Berlin, but at the same time, I mean, I definitely want to check out the lineup they're using. Heidenheim have been okay to start the year, not as bad as Darmstadt, the other newly promoted, but a long way to go for me to trust them there. But the total's high, and I don't expect Heidenheim to do too much offensively against a solid Union Berlin defense that almost kept a clean sheet against Real Madrid on the road in the Bernabeu. So, but Union should be in a defensive mindset here. I think that's Urs Fischer is going to take over. He tried to play offensive, and it's not gone well to start the year. We'll see where that goes. But for now, I like under, and I guess the home dog as well. Next, we'll go to Köln for FC Köln, or FC hosting Stuttgart. Currently Köln quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 2 3/4. She's very heavily to the over. Big total, and it's probably based on how well Stuttgart have played the season, but a lot of respect for Köln, as I was thinking they might be a half a goal underdog at home, just based on how well Stuttgart have played and how lifeless Köln look at this point. They're still giving a lot of energy, so lifeless is probably not fair, but their offense and their attack is lifeless. They don't have much up there. So I'm not sure I'm interested in Köln. They got to show me a lot more. The total is a little bit scary at 2 3/4. It's probably a number I'll wait to see 3, but it's above what I made it, so I'll put it on my list. Next, we'll go to Bochum hosting Borussia Mönchengladbach. I was expecting Gladbach to be an underdog here, and they are a pick'em, but I guess trending towards underdog. So we'll see what happens there. Over under at 3 is a very high total, based on, I guess, Bochum's road defense, which has been really awful, but they're at home. They play a lot better. They play a lot more with the ball and a possession type of style at home. Gladbach have been awful defensively, but haven't really done much offensively either. I think my probably biggest interest at this point, until Bochum become an underdog, which I don't think will happen even at pick'em, I think under 3 is my biggest interest. I'm not sure it'll make the card, but it does interest me right now. Next, we'll go to a huge matchup, for especially in the title race, but maybe more than that, trying to like get some momentum going for Champions League and things of that nature. And that is Bayern München on the road at RB Leipzig. Currently, Leipzig are a half a goal underdog at home, which is a little bit different than the +1 they closed in the Super Copa to start the season at Bayern. So that, I guess, similar price. It's basically flip-flopping home field, but it feels a little bit of a slight because Leipzig control that matchup. You could say easy or lucky goals, but they're the side I want here. I think that they can really challenge. Before I had the idea, or before I saw that Leverkusen were going to be so competitive, I think Leipzig are in a good position to potentially challenge for the title. They keep winning matches, maybe not in the same dominant fashion as Bayern München, who scored 7 against Bochum last weekend. But I think Bayern, especially as a road favorite, they got a lot to prove here. I think the total I'm interested in under. I made it closer to 1 than 3 1/4. Juice to the over, potentially going to get 3.5 before it kicks off. It's a really high total. Yes, with Bayern, especially off scoring 7 goals, that makes sense. But Leipzig are a tough matchup for them. I think 3 goals is a reasonable endpoint, 2-1 either way, or maybe a 3-0 if it gets a little bit ugly. But I think that could be on the Leipzig side. So I like that half of a goal. Certainly means less with a higher total, but as the total climbs as well, I think I could see a Leipzig tough matchup here, maybe a 1-1 or something like that would potentially pay out on both of those directions. Moving to Sunday, we have SV Darmstadt hosting Werder Bremen. Currently Darmstadt at pick'em, all the juice on Werder Bremen on the road. Over unders 2 3/4, juice all the way to over. Werder Bremen matches have had a ton of scoring this year. I don't think it's been deserved. I think I'm most interested to see if this does hit 3 goals, because I think that's an important push opportunity. But I'm also interested in Darmstadt. They haven't been good to start this year, but I'm looking to be against Werder Bremen, especially as a road favorite. I don't trust them to score whatsoever. Got a good win last week, but how much was that deserved or fortune? And really just a Köln team that's really struggled. I do want to see Darmstadt get to a quarter of a goal, though I doubt I'd play them at pick'em. Freiburg then hosts Augsburg in the last matchup of the weekend. We have Freiburg a 3/4 goal favorite at home, which is exactly what I made it. little bit more juice on the Freiburg side as well. So we might get a full goal potentially before this kicks off. Over under is 2.75, and it's juiced all the way to over. I'm going to be looking to see if I can get an under 3. Freiburg coming off a tough situation with playing in Europe, in Greece. But then not really many chances. Offense has not looked good this season. Defense has been struggling, but has been getting better. And I think that's a real focal point for Freiburg, who have basically been built on defense for years. Augsburg, they got a big win last weekend on the road. They are a much inferior team. Their defense is problematic and could make Freiburg look good, but Freiburg haven't so far. And I don't know that Augsburg are really going to threaten the Freiburg defense much. So I'm going to wait and see if 3 pops up. Don't have it yet. I'm not sure if we'll get it, but that's certainly what I'm thinking about for that matchup. And then for a best bet before we go to Ligue 1 in France, I'm going to go with the under 2.75 right now. Heidenheim hosting Union Berlin just feels like a way too big of a number that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me right now. We'll see what happens if it does make a little more sense as we get closer to the matchup, but still a lot of unders this week. And I think we're in a point in the season where the defenses are finally learning how to play together. And that's a big deal moving forward. Last but not least, we'll go to Ligue 1 in France. Then I'll summarize and get out of here with an ultimate best bet. Clermont Foot hosts PSG in the opener on Saturday. Clermont, a 1.25 goal favorite with a little bit more of the juice, or excuse me, 1.25 goal underdog to PSG, the road favorite. Over under is 3, and that is juiced pretty heavily to the under. Might lose that number. That's probably my biggest interest, but Clermont at home, they score with penalties. I don't know that they're going to have many chances with PSG having a lot of the ball, even on the road here. Probably 3 is my biggest interest because I made the total bigger than that. But until then, I'm not really interested in the side. I think PSG are starting to wake up and they're starting to look scary. Monaco then hosts Marseille in the nightcap. Marseille with a new manager already. I mean, it's every year the same story. But Monaco currently a 1/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice on Marseille on the road. That is banana land to me. Is way too short. Which I don't know that I trust the Ligue 1 market as much as I trust Serie A, but that certainly does point to Marseille being the side you want to look to. Over under at 3 is higher than I made it, but could be a lot of goals in this matchup. I trust Monaco to score. They don't have a great home field advantage, but I'm a little surprised this number's so small. I don't think I'd be able to advocate it until I see something to change my mind moving forward this weekend. On Sunday, we have Stade Reims hosting Lyon. Currently, Reims a 1/2 goal favorite. Kind of amazing. I tried to make this as high as I could, and I still couldn't get here. But 1/2 goal favorite. All the juice on Lyon on the other side. So potentially sitting between 1/4 and 1/2 at the moment. Lyon haven't looked good enough to start the season. I'm not really interested in backing them, even though the number is bigger than I made it. I think the only interest for me here is the total at 2.75, juice all the way over. I think I'd be interested if it hits 3. But Lyon, they just haven't looked like an offensive team so far to start the season. They're basically going with a lot of really young players, I think, because they haven't been able to get the talent that they usually get in from selling their players at high prices. Asamoah didn't get sold for anything, I think, but a free transfer to Roma, so it wasn't even a sale. That's been problematic. Lyon are in a bad shape right now, and Reims look pretty good. They've been great under Will Still. I believe in their offense. They went to Lyon, or excuse me, went to Lille and played really well. There's a lot that I need to see, but I guess the total is still pretty high for me. Le Havre then hosts Lille after Reims and Lille both played on Tuesday. For some reason, I never really got to figure out why that was, and completely forgot about the match, unfortunately. Probably would have won a bet on Reims if I had the opportunity, but anyway, missed it. I look at Le Havre, they're a 1/2 goal underdog at home to Lille. That's big price. They've shown they've been very competitive in Liga so far. I'm not necessarily a believer in Lille at this point. I don't really want to play an under, though, with Lille. And the total is not anywhere. It's about what I made it. So I can skip that there and make Le Havre my biggest interest so far. Nice then hosts Stade Brestois. Let me figure out where the heck I put this line. Okay. We have Nice, a 3/4 goal favorite with more of the juice on Brest right now, which is about what I made it. Over under is 2.5, juice a little bit to the under. Nice have been really good. The market has liked them. It seems like their performances have matched what the market has said will happen in these matches, like Nice underpriced and then playing better than the team they're visiting. Sabres are off to a great start, and this is asking a lot for Nice to beat them by more than a goal to take your full bet. I'm wondering to see where this one goes. I think it's Brestois getting a full goal. I'll be interested in to play it. I don't know that we'll get there. Total's a little bit bigger than I made it, so I guess I'm interested slightly in the under there as well. So I guess like the underdog and like I guess I'm not a believer in Nice as much as the rest of the marketplace. Toulouse then hosts Metz, currently Toulouse a quarter goal favorite, but with almost all the juice right now, potentially going to get to half before this kicks off. I like Metz. They've been playing awesome to start the season. They're like a beloved team of mine in the past. I'm trying to let that go, but I can't because they've been playing so well. So I'm interested in that quarter of a goal right now, potentially getting a half based on where the juice is saying it will go. Don't have that yet, but 2.5 is I think a reasonable total. Mets have been scoring themselves and playing a lot better defense than I've expected. Toulouse, though, they're a front-footed side, so I don't know that I want to play an under with them. Lorient then hosts Montpellier in what should be a pretty big matchup. Lorient, I guess, haven't been great to start this season, but ultimately they've done fairly well against the spread for me. So that's all I care about at this point, and probably all you care about too. Lorient, a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2 3/4, juiced very heavily to under. So we might see this one dropping to 2.5, which I think makes sense. Lorient at home, they still play very defensively, counterattacking style football. But it's hard to play an under with Montpellier, even though it's bigger than I made it. I think my biggest interest here is fading Montpellier. They haven't really been able to keep up the momentum that they had to start the season, which is hard to do because they basically were upsetting everybody and looking awesome the whole season. So that's hard. But I think for my situation, I like Lorient as a home dog. As always, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you probably believe that. But I see no reason to change that. They've been really good to me so far. Last but not least, we have Rennes hosting Nantes. Currently, Rennes a 1 1/4 goal favorite, far bigger than I made it, and actually is a little bit surprising because Nantes have looked fairly potent offensively, more than I would expect, including a pasting scored 5 goals on Lorient last weekend at home. Now they go on the road where Rennes are much better at home than they are away from home, but it's also a little bit different scenario because Rennes are not as young as they have been in the past. Sold Jeremy Doku to Manchester City, brought in some older players. So I think Rennes are just not playing as well. Stade Rennais, if you're looking for the French version. And the price is way bigger than I made it, above a goal, even though it's very juiced. Seems really looks good to me, even in a high total match like 2 3/4. That's also bigger than I made it, and maybe is a return to form for Rennes potentially. But I think there's a lot that needs to be proven here, and I'm not necessarily a believer in it just yet. And we'll see what happens with that one. For my best bet in Ligue 1, I'm going to go on just going to back the home team again. Football Club Lorient are my dogs, I got to say, or I guess they're technically fish is what they're, I guess, nicknamed or something like that in northwest of France. But getting a quarter at home is from a team that's certainly had some defensive troubles in the past and is going to have to go on there and win a match on the road. I think it's going to be tough for Montpellier. So that'll wrap up the 5 leagues we're covering. Trying to do this as quickly as possible. I'm not sure how efficiently that was done, but I guess we're 47 minutes in, so we're under an hour. So that's what I was hoping for. So I guess it's time for the ultimate best bet. If you're on YouTube or you're on, please subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It's huge for getting me up the search rankings. If you're not a patron yet, go check out patreon.com, just the real_G Warner. Great spot to get all my picks, plays, leans, everything coming out throughout the day. Also, if I'm changing my mind on a play, I'll put that in of what I thought initially and why I changed that. I think it's helped a lot of people either save some money potentially or potentially win some extra. Both, I think, are in the same direction. Saving money is just as good as winning money in this game, especially when you're paying a -110 type of juice at all these plays. But I will be back probably for next week for Champions League, maybe something this weekend for baseball, getting ready for the playoffs. That's actually going to happen. So we'll see. I got a bachelor party here though, and I'll be going to the Cowboys on Sunday. So if anyone's got some ticket leads that aren't at the top of the stadium, let me know, because that's probably where I'll be at this point. Not my favorite, rather watch on TV, but kind of celebrate people when they decide to get married, I guess. So without further ado, let's get into the best bet, or the ultimate best bet portion of the show. Just gonna make sure I'm doing this right. Yes, okay. Hey, it's the real underscore G Warner, and this is Betting the Pitch number 227. This is the European soccer podcast going through the top 5 European soccer leagues across Europe. So for my best bet in England, I'll go with Fulham under 2.5 goals. In Spain, Celta de Vigo under 2.25. In French Ligue 1, I'll go with Lorient plus 1/4 goal at home. Bundesliga, I'll go with Heidenheim under 2.75. And in Italy and Serie, I'll go Empoli under 2.5 goals. But for my ultimate best bet, 1-0 last week, trying to keep that momentum going, I'm going to go with Empoli under 2.5 goals. I'm just not a believer in this Empoli offense whatsoever. They've been scoreless at home this whole season until they got one in their last match. Now they go to Bologna, and Bologna are really not a efficient scoring team. 2 straight 0-0 draws for Bologna. I think it's going to be really hard to see 3 goals in this matchup. And sometimes you bet streaks in this business. So go under 2.5 for Empoli visiting Bologna. It's my ultimate best bet for the real underscore G Warner. And that'll do it for this episode. 50 minutes. Hope you enjoy this. Whether you're listening, wherever you are, leave a 5-star review. I'll read it. Whatever your comments are, I'll censor them if I have to. But whatever you got, let me know any suggestions you got moving forward as well. And I'll talk to you more later in the weekend.